Hey guys, we're back with another episode of Studio Nights. Today we are here with Briana Johnson. Welcome.
Woo! Woo! Thank you for having me.
Well, Bri, just to let our listeners know, you were my professor for D8. I remember it was your first year.
Yes.
I think so.
Yeah, my first time teaching.
Yeah, no, that was very exciting. And well, we just kind of want to get to know you. So if you can give us like a background of like where you grew up, how you started.
In architecture?
In architecture.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I grew up in Melbourne, Florida, and I spent a lot of my time in Orlando, like to the Central Florida area. And I went undergrad at UCF, but I was not studying architecture. So I was studying healthcare. And I thought I wanted to be the CFO of a hospital at that time. And after, like, throughout my process, I was able to omit an internship. And so I guess I didn't really know what I was getting into. And ultimately, I moved to South Florida to pursue a smaller office job that would like follow that degree. And I ended up getting fired quickly after moving to South Florida. But it all worked out because I quickly got a job at a local like restaurant in the area. And I met some great friends, and they hooked me up with a recruiter who got me into the construction industry. And so I think it was a necessary pivot in my life. Construction led me to interiors and ultimately to architecture, where I'm at now. So it all worked out.
Oh, that's so nice. When you were young, did you have like any like creative hobbies that you think kind of led you?
Yes, I mean, I loved painting. I loved dancing. I still love dancing and singing, but I always loved like, I was always coloring or doing arts or painting by numbers or something. So I loved art from a young age. Yeah.
I remember that we spoke about something about your fashion and design.
Oh, yeah. When I was young, I used to design fashion. And so I was saying, I forgot to bring it, but I had a portfolio that I recently found of my fashion designs that I used to keep in a portfolio. My mom actually kept it for me. So I think I was maybe, 12 when I was designing these things. Yeah. I think they would still look good today.
Were you designing like dresses?
Oh no, it was like super Bratz inspired. Like everything was Bratz. Yeah.
Love that. It's so funny. So
yeah, it's full circle.
Full circle moment. Yeah. Do you think I guess does that overlap a little bit with your architecture?
Yeah, I mean, I do. I think it has to do with proportion and scale. I think what influences me most is like color. So when I talk about like painting or art, like my dad always allowed us to paint our rooms whatever color we wanted. It was usually like every few years we would switch the color of our rooms. And so, I don't know, I love the influence of color and textures and materials. And I think that influences how I design today.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So you didn't start in architecture. You started in healthcare.
Correct.
And then you went into construction. And then you went into interiors.
Yes.
How was that transition like?
From healthcare to construction, I mean, it was completely different, but the role that I had for the construction company was more like project management, which I was doing in my healthcare studies. It was like a health administration role. And so those things easily translated. I was already sort of managing numbers and managing information and organizing it. So that was an easy transition. But in terms of the interior transition, it was something I more fell in love with at the construction job. And I recognized, this is sort of a blend of the two worlds. So I pursued that.
So did you go to school for that or?
For interiors? No, I just did that with my construction job.
Oh, interesting. So then architecture, you did UF City Lab?
Yes, I did UF City Lab, but I did the core program because I had the background in healthcare.
How was that experience like?
Oh, that was amazing. I mean, you're just immersed in studio for, I don't remember how many years, but it's like full-time immersed in studio. Yeah. I think at the time when I started, I didn't really have a job. And so it was like school 24/7. Yeah. And so I loved it.
Okay. Yeah. Did you have to take I think it's like 4 or 6 years?
Yes. I had to take all of them.
All of them through there. So you went through UF City Lab and then I guess, did you do your grad or was it just?
Graduate program is incorporated into the core program. So you start with a comprehensive undergrad course, and then you it just rolled right into the graduate program.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
From what I know of core, it's not a lot. It's more intensive because you're kind of like speeding it up.
Yeah. D1, D2, D3, D4, all the way,
the lower division,
in like 2 years versus,
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. During that period of time, did you have like any mentors that you remember? Like, I guess, I mean, you went through this process of healthcare and construction and interiors. How did you figure out that, oh no, architecture was that career?
Well, I don't know if I knew that. I sort of took some risks, right? Like I get very bored easily and I like to be challenged. So when I moved back from South Florida during the construction job to Orlando to do interiors, but the interior work was more like for model homes or production builders who were doing the staging for model homes. When you come in and say, I want to build this house versus, that model house. And so it wasn't like, high-end interiors or even workplace interiors. So I grew a little complacent. I thought, well, if I get another degree or something and have these qualifications, it would lead me to a better, more success.
Yeah.
And I was shopping one day with my interiors job for furniture for one of our projects, and I ran into a guy at Z Gallery, which is an old store you wouldn't know, but it had like really blingy, ugly furniture, but it was like of the time, everything was mirrored and blingy. Yeah. And he was like, oh yeah, I've got this girlfriend at a program here. It's a UF program downtown. And he told me about it. And we used to shop Z Gallery all the time for our project. I never saw him before and I never saw him again after. But I met him this time and he told me about City Lab. And I looked at it and I reached out to Frank at the time, who was the director. And and it was just history from there. So it was more like I wanted this personal, it was a personal goal of mine to have my master's degree and have something more challenging. And I was like, well, a nice switch from interiors would be architecture. So that's why we pursued that.
That's so interesting because like I feel like normally we're so focused on like what do we have to do next after high school when in reality there's so many different ways that you can get into.
I had a very wandering path, and like I said, I had some random angels that would come in and out and help guide me, and then it led me to where I'm at.
That's insane. So then in the core program, is there anything that like highlights like the way you maybe design or the way you take projects?
So during the core process, like there's a lot of information coming at you, right? And if you don't have a background in architecture, and City Lab was this satellite campus, this idea to support local cities outside of Gainesville. But because we were in this core program, we didn't have a connection to main campus initially, right? Like when you go to main campus, you understand what's expected of you. You kind of see the work around you and you know what they're looking for. But at the time, City Lab was sort of removed, and we didn't know, we'd never seen this like this UF philosophy or like their curriculum. And so I remember, I think it was like the D1 project, or maybe it was Door Window Stair, one of those. I was really floundering. Like I couldn't get it. I was spending all this time spinning my wheels, and I used Pinterest finally to like understand and start sketching. And I took my love for Pinterest and my love of collage, and that was my final product. And my project actually got selected to be shown at main campus from our City Lab group. And so I was like, okay, this is a method I can use for, design going forward. And so I think, I still use that technique of like mood boarding, Pinterest, collage to really pull my first initial design ideas together. And there's so many tools now that are better than Pinterest. There's like Cosmos that I've been using and all of these other search engines that are much better. But that's still the method that I use.
That's cool. Yeah, I feel like that the method is like the hardest part. To pinpoint.
Yeah, I think when we were in school, I remember we had this professor. He made us do like our initial concept, and we kind of need to do this. It wasn't like a collage; it was more of like an art collage thing, and super abstract. But it kind of reflect and take you to like how the concept of your building or your hospital kind of worked. And for me, that was like super interesting, just grabbing all these ideas and creating like a flowy, artsy kind of poster collage thing. So I found it really interesting.
Yeah. Collage is important because I made your class work with collage. And, some people get so afraid of it, or they don't understand it. But with this art background that I had, or, you know, my love for art, collage is important because you start to understand a method of layering. You understand spatial ideas. You start to understand, you know, the void, or, you know, the mass. And there's like all of these different compositional things that are occurring in the collage that can be translated to 3D space. And so I think it's a very useful tool, but I do think it intimidates some people who don't quite see the vision of collage. So yeah.
No, I guess. What would be your like tips and tricks on that
for collage?
Yeah.
Honestly, it's about layering. Like sometimes it's not working, and you can tell it's not working, and you're stuck on a certain space, and it's like, all right, we'll tack something on, or remove something, or start to, you know, this is not just adding only. You have to subtract, and you're looking for the areas that are going to be your ideas that to come through, right? But it's a matter of just, you know, you have to have a fine line of knowing when to stop, but I think it's a matter of just, you know, a balance. Yeah.
It's funny because you just reminded me, when I was still living at home with my parents, I would change my room like every year. It was ridiculous. And there was one year where I had my mom, I guess, I don't even know how we had just so many like of the Art Daily magazines and magazines like that. And I had like a huge stack. And one year I was like, I'm just going to rip pages off of these magazines and collage them on my wall, and that's what I did. I just ripped. I've never told you guys.
Cool.
Yeah. I want to say I have pictures of my room at this time somewhere, but yeah, I just ripped off pages and pages and pages of these magazines and just collaged them all over my wall.
It was for me. It was my bedroom door. So my bedroom door, when you came in, that was like my collage to my friends of who I was and what I was liking at the time. You know, whether it was like pop stars or art or whatever, like that was totally my thing.
I like collage because, I mean, I've seen collages that are very still lined up, very grid-like.
Oh, yeah.
I prefer it to not be like that. I prefer it to be kind of, I don't want to say messy, but more playful, more overlapping, and kind of blending into each other. And I felt that's what I was doing with my wall in my room.
But that's also so kind of like designers. Like some designers are very organized and everything's orthogonal. And I remember Bender told me one time that I was orthogonally challenged. He told me
what?
No, I was like, at first I'm like, I don't know what he means, and I'm like, wait, that was not a compliment. But he told me that, and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna accept this. Like my things will not always be so organized. It does have some freedom and fluidity. So
that's so funny.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's every designer. Every designer has a different style.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's why we have so many different styles and everything. Oh, that's so funny. Well, to go back to you teaching to us, how was that transition? Like, did you always want to teach, or was that something?
I don't know. I think maybe it's more natural. Like I love to help people. I like to encourage like younger people in this journey. I've had, you know, in my experience, I've had people who are very good mentors, and I've had the people who are mentors in the sense that they show you how not to be, or how you do not want to be, or, you know, you've had a bad experience with them. You learn like, okay, maybe that's not my person. And so there's both that are useful tools, but I like to be the person that can help someone further their career, or, you know, if it's getting into grad school. And so I think it's always been my nature to help other people who are around me, and teaching is just one aspect of that. I love to help teach people. So
no, we did learn a lot from you. I remember I think it was, we were nervous because we didn't know you. And then obviously, I mean, first impressions, you don't really know who the person is.
Yeah, of course.
But then, no, I mean, you helped us so much. I love that, like, you're very outspoken, which is great, which is what we need. Like, we need someone to tell us what to do.
Yeah.
Especially in DA when you have
Well, and you all had just come back from Vicenza, and no one wanted to do any work, which no one told me until after the semester. They were like, oh, yeah, by the way, that they all just got back. And I'm like, are you kidding me? This is my first semester. So I really had to push you guys to produce work, you know? You were at the end. You had just come back from a nice trip.
We're about to graduate.
Yes. So.
But no, it was a really good semester. We learned a lot. And the collage thing, I think, stuck with me. So I use it whenever I can.
That's nice to hear. Yeah. I think there is a misconception of people being afraid of me, especially I've heard that when I give critiques that they are actually afraid. But I need everyone to understand, I'm not critiquing you as a person. This is not personal. This is to help you excel at your work. And all of it is truly subjective.
Yeah.
What I see in your work may be different than what someone else sees and values in your work, but that's okay because there's so many people in this world who will either align with it or not. And what I give to you may be feedback that you say, okay, I understand her perspective, but I truly want to pursue this avenue that I believe in. And that's what makes you a good designer. If I say something to you and then you start to design it as exactly as I say, that doesn't give you a very good design voice. It doesn't give you the confidence you need to be a designer. And so, like, I think criticism in our industry is the most vital tool. I actually think in this world, it is very vital. In a nice and constructive manner, right? And I'm never looking to, like, put someone personally down. It is more to say, like, is this work to the standard and quality that is expected of you at the level you should be at or beyond? So, you know, that's my personality.
It's also like your clients are not going to be nice to you sometimes when they're critiquing the stuff that you're showing them. So you do have to build this thicker skin in what we do, because your clients are just going to tell you how they feel, and
they're the ones paying you.
Exactly.
So. They are. And I think being a strong designer, again, is another balance of how do I assert my design style, but also meet the needs of my client? How do I present myself as the expert that they should listen to or take advice from on a certain topic versus them just telling me what to build for them? Because that would be very easy to say, okay, now draw this here. I want this. And that does happen. And so it's a balance of how much can I push them to, you know, how much can I influence them versus, you know, them just telling me exactly what to do.
Right.
I think it's really valuable to always, like you're saying, like, we listen to our clients and we have this personality to take in, you know, but it's always good to, like, okay, here it is, what you asked for, but hey, I did an option 2 of what I think could be a great option for your, you know, your project, your whatever. So always coming in as with an attitude of, okay, I listen to you, you know, I take all this in, this is what you wanted, but also let me put my design kind of perspective and here, look, option 2. And sometimes that works for clients, you know, because sometimes there are people that it's hard. And it's also important to, like you're saying, like, having a personality as well to collaborate with others, like with other engineers, you know, there's so many things that go into, like, the design, and it's important to be able to work with other people. So building that through school, through the critiques, through all this, it kind of helps.
Important.
It's important.
It is important.
I feel like you can't go to a presentation with the mindset that my project's perfect and I'm going to say good things and this and that. Like, you have to be open to critiques. And it's not to say that some critiques are harsh in a way that they don't need to be, right? You're going to have the people who just praise you when they shouldn't only praise you, and the other extreme, right? You need to have the balance of, this is all good, like, you should continue to do this, but this needs work, and that's the only way you improve. I mean, if you were to continue to just say everything you did is great, you're never going to get any better.
I always hear the crits who would, like, if your work was of a certain quality and the crits ended up being like, well, where's the door handle here? Like, that level of criticism, I was like, oh man, this is bad. You know what I mean? Like, if they're asking you about a door handle, or like, you missed a door swing here, and it's like, okay, you need to be selling them an idea about the space, about how it feels, about how I experience it. And if they're getting down to that level of detail, you've missed the mark. Like, that was always kind of my register.
Okay, so I'm curious.
Okay.
What made you want to get into healthcare when you were originally studying?
Oh, well, I don't know if I ever really wanted to get into healthcare. It was more like I was kind of the first in my family to go to college. And so I think from my parents' influence, I thought healthcare is sustainable and it's a good career and you should pursue that. So it was more like that influence in my life. And I think, you know, you go to school when you're 18 years old and you're like, okay, my mom and dad are my biggest influence. I think that is what I should do. And then when I got there, I don't know. Like I said, I always need a new challenge. I was always great in school, always great at test taking, but I don't think I ever really understood what my purpose was. And I never really knew to pursue that or try to find another avenue. I just followed what I thought was right. And it led me there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm also wondering, when you went into the construction field,
Yeah.
how was that for you as a woman? Because construction is typically a male dominated.
Oh yeah, it was
industry.
very male dominated. I loved it though.
Yeah.
I think, well, because let's like be about my personality. Let's kind of break it down. I am outspoken. I am loud. I sometimes cuss. And this is a predominantly, there was men all around. I was working with women though, because we were working, so when the job that I had is when you purchased your production home, you would come into my design area and you would pick all of the finishes for your home.
Oh.
So it was a role in construction, but mostly led by women. And I mean, the women I was with were all working moms. They were very strong personalities in their own regards. Some had been like designers for years with their own businesses and come back to do something a little bit more stable.
Wow.
Others had been doing this since they were like 16 years old and worked their way up to now management levels. So I had a lot of really good influences in that role. But I also think it was a balance of corporate but not corporate, and I think I really flourished there.
Yeah.
I also like grew up with my dad, and so I think that it didn't intimidate me to be in a male dominated world.
So, in the work you do now, what is your role right now in your firm?
So right now I work for Baker Barrios Architects. I am a designer with the Vision Studio. And so my role is that typically the early stages of the project comes to our team. So we would work with the city on entitlements. We help the clients look at test fits for multiple options on their site. We would then lead it through to the concept phase and then all the way through to schematic, which at that time we would hand it in to our technical team and sort of work in a more curator role to ensure that the design intent remains throughout the project. But we work up mostly until the schematic level, DD sometimes if needed.
Yeah. So can you talk to us a little bit about what you like within the design phase? And that doesn't just have to be specifically what you do in your firm, but it could also be the design phase of your school projects or in life. I mean, we're always designing everything.
So what I like about it is just that you can take something that you think of and make it real, which is challenging. Sometimes you cannot make the thing you're thinking of real, but it's so fun when you actually can. And that's what I love about design. Like when I'm teaching you guys, I love to see this idea that you had come to fruition and the joy that it brings you to actually like follow through on it. Yeah. That's very hard for most people.
Yeah. So would you say that you're coming up doing the fashion, doing all the coloring? Would you say that you see yourself applying a lot of that of your early life into the work that you do now?
Yes. And actually like in my current role, I've recently had the opportunity to work on a more like holistic from architecture to interior, a holistic project in that regard. And I think it's like the perfect blend of both worlds.
Yeah.
That's how designers used to be.
I think so.
You would start with concept and you would go all the way through to the interiors of the project. And I think, construction, there's been changes in our industry that have made it so that we have a more specialized approach, which can be good, but also we see that it can be harmful in the sense that other people come in and take that scope and our work is less valued now. So I hope that ultimately we get back to this more holistic approach to architecture.
Yeah, I think that's what I liked about school, especially in grad school. Especially in grad school, because we got to do our design and we got to actually think about how do we make this, somewhat real, not real because it's school.
Yeah.
But I know some people prefer design only or some people prefer technical only, but I personally like to see something through.
Yes.
And I haven't gotten that yet in my professional career. But I do think there's a lot of value in learning, especially in your professional career, because us being young people coming into this, at least for me, I want to kind of get a holistic view as to what goes into a project. How do you go from this design into making it real? What are the things that are changing? And I feel those things are what make you a better designer too in the end.
Yeah, I have had the benefit of working at a small firm for my first job in the industry, and shout out to Architects Design Group in Winter Park, but that is a firm that operates, it's very lean, it's very small, but they have municipal projects. So the budgets are large, they take longer times. And I learned all aspects of the project there, where you do start from concept, site planning, all the way up to construction documents and then interior. So I think at a smaller firm, you have more of those opportunities, which is where I always felt more comfortable. Now I'm at a middle tier firm where some of those opportunities still come up, but you know, you have to kind of find what fits your personality.
I feel like at the beginning, that's super important because like, I mean, where I'm at, it's a small firm, and I do see the process, but sometimes I feel like if I were even in a smaller firm, I would really understand every single thing that happens. Because sometimes, I guess when you're starting, you get to a point where you're like in a puzzle piece, but you don't understand the rest.
Oh yeah.
So then it's hard to understand. Oh, what am I supposed to do to get to the other phase or to the other point of the project? But yeah, no, I do think that's like super important to understand like holistically.
Yeah, I would hate for your first job to be where you're like the guy who does only door schedules, right? Because then that might put you off to the whole industry, like this whole wonderful thing that it is. But like sometimes you just get a piece of it and you don't really understand the whole. But good firms will teach you the whole so that they can elevate you and you become better in your career.
My firm works kind of a little bit like yours is. You have a designated design team, and then you have a designated production and your CA, and I'm part of the design team currently, and I've been part of it and I love it. But at the same time, I did, you know, as a young professional starting and all these things, I did talk to them, and I was like, I wanna, you know, I did mainly site SDs, part of DDs, and I was like, I wanna learn more throughout like the project. So this year I'm focusing more like, you know, and I voice it out to them. Like I told them, like, hey, can you put me, I don't want to leave design, but can I do a few hours of detailing and understanding how the interior works with the things I'm designing? Because I'm over there, you know, designing this amazing desk, reception, lobby, and then I just hand it out to production to detail it. And for me, it was like, I don't even understand how it kind of comes together. So right now, I'm in that transition because I ask my bosses, hey, I want to do this, and they hear me. So I'm over here detailing a thing I designed in SDs, and it's so cool.
Yeah,
I
love really cool.
And then I sit down with the production guy that's been there for forever, and he's like, so what were you thinking on this corner? And I'm like, well, I don't know. I just did it, and I didn't, you know, like he makes you think through the holistic desk. I know we're talking about like super specific, but talking about the space. But for example, the desk, he would be like, and what about the other corner? And I'm like, I didn't think about the other corner. Like, it's like crazy. It's like
it makes you a better designer.
It does. Yes. Detailing and actually like CA, being on site and construction, you know, going to the construction site, you will learn so much more about this process versus just designing it in 3D and then letting it go.
So we want to talk a little bit about licensure in our industry.
Okay.
So for us, I think we've always felt licensure is important for your growth, for your knowledge, all those things. We want to kind of ask you what your experience has been thinking about licensure, if you've ever studied for licensure, and how do we tackle that? Because I think for us, we tried studying while we were in school, and that was very hard. And some people can do it, and that's amazing. That's great. But not everybody can do that. And it is a lot. I mean, you think I just went through 6 years of school, and now I have to study for 6 tests and pay all this money. And it's a lot, and it's overwhelming. But everybody always tells us, you need to get your license, you need to get your license, you need to get your license. And that has many benefits to it. But we kind of want to hear your opinion and your ideas on what that means for you.
Well, this is interesting because I was on a walk with my husband this morning who is licensed, and I mentioned to him that by the summer I want to get licensed. So I am not licensed. My class at City Lab was the first IPAL class in the nation.
Oh, wow.
So 2 of my classmates were the first in the nation to actually pass their license with the IPAL program.
Wow.
Yeah. Michael and Philip, they both are amazing and working in their own respective fields now. But yeah, so they were the first 2 in the whole nation to do this. And, you know, it's been, I think, 8 years for me now. And so I have no excuse other than, you know, I just didn't I took 2 of my exams. I've passed 2 and I have 4 more. And I think I just didn't want to sit for 4 hours and take an exam and sit in a really small, like rank, dusty old room with a 1998 computer.
They are old.
Yeah, they are.
You know, they're awful.
Yeah.
And the mouse is still attached. Like, I don't understand. Let's upgrade the facilities. But, you know, it's not the most conducive testing environment, right?
Yeah.
But that is no excuse. So, like, anyway, I was on the walk with my husband this morning, and I said to him that I do want to get licensed by this summer. And he's like, okay, well, explain to me, like, why are you feeling you need to do that? And I think I've always had the philosophy. I've met so many people who've been in the industry like 20 plus years that are not licensed, and they've done very well for themselves. So I always thought, like, oh, I don't really need it. But my response to him was that I want to have the license so that if there's something I want to pursue in the future, no one can say that I'm not qualified for that. So minimally, I will have the qualifications on paper, and then I can do whatever I want with that going forward.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my philosophy. I don't know that you need it. I know plenty of people who are principals that are not licensed. But for myself, I'm kind of more leaning toward, like, let's just get this done with, and at least I will have it. And
that qualification.
Yeah.
I think thinking about the opportunities it can bring is important.
Sure.
Because I know a lot of people talk about, oh, like, you just be able to stamp. And I think I've said before, like, I don't really care to stamp. Like, it's more so about being able to grow and being able to have those opportunities. If you want to get into that, nobody can, like you said, put that wall up and say no.
Yeah, there's still the old guard that's going to believe that you need that, right?
Yeah.
Whether people want to say that they are, modern and they don't care and it doesn't really matter. I think you have to understand that the way this works politically is that some people will care and it will matter. So you should just have it as a minimum. And,
But it's not easy. Like,
no.
It's not easy to do.
It's not easy. I think it's more mental. You have to really get over that hurdle of you're going to be taking a test. It's going to maybe stink for a few months, but it doesn't have to take years to do. I know other people have done this in 4 months or 6 months, and it's because
insane to think about.
Well, they were just in the mind frame of I'm taking these tests and it will get done, right? There is no option. I'm just going to do it, and I do think it's part mental.
It definitely
has to be.
It has to be because. I mean, we've talked a lot about even when you go in. Was it you that told us that about your first test?
Yeah, I think there were tests that I studied for 2 months, like 2 hours a day, like studying, and I would fail. Yeah. And then one of them I passed because I actually forgot about it. We had a work function. We had too much tequila, and my husband had to come pick me up. And he's like, you have a test tomorrow. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I have a test tomorrow. So I go to this test hungover. And I did not care how I answered, I was just free in that time. I was like, I need to go home and have a lunch. And I passed that one, so it's like sometimes I'm not saying to do that, but if you are having a hang up on the idea of actually just taking the test and getting into that space, maybe like
that blocks you.
Yeah, it does kind of block you, and maybe find something that helps remove the stigma.
Yeah, I think we overthink a lot.
That's what I was going to say. I definitely have a problem with overthinking. Me too. In life, right? Yeah. Especially because I'm not a good test taker, and there is such thing as good and bad test takers. I believe, and I'm not a good test taker, so I feel like I get in my head a lot. I mean, me and Valerie have attempted one, and that's a whole other story.
Yeah, but that was
the power went out in the middle of our test.
Oh yeah, that happens too.
Like,
let's fix that. Let's fix that in carb.
Let's fix that.
They've done that to me too, and I'm like, I am not paying for this. You will be paying for a second one, but then you have to go to a second one.
Yeah. So
that was a whole crazy story.
It was a whole thing. But
I had a friend that someone threw up while he was test taking in the place, and you're locked in a room.
No, I couldn't do that.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
No, ours was the light went out, and then a desk broke. Do you remember that the security guy came in, was bringing someone in? I guess like his computer wasn't working or whatever, so he was like trying to fix it, and then the desk just like collapsed, and then
yeah,
I'm like, you were there.
But this was while we were still taking.
This is while we were still we were still testing, so distracted.
No.
And
immediately leave, and we are getting a credit, and we are redoing this.
Honestly, because that was very distracting. And then the
super
power
disruptive.
Went out,
and we had to sit there, and I'm like looking for Valerie,
because
you think that like if you say anything, you're going to be disqualified.
Yes,
but it's like, first of all, the power's out.
Yeah.
It's not coming back.
No.
Yeah.
So my test is gone.
And I thought you had left.
Oh, the
No,
hard
I
work.
wouldn't have left you, Valerie.
know,
Yeah,
but
but anyway, that was our first experience.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of
The
like,
first one?
Yes,
Yes.
that's the only one we've
That's
taken.
the only one
Okay,
we've
let's get
attempted.
past that. We'll do group therapy for the next podcast, and then we
Great.
will start test taking again.
yes, we
Yeah.
will.
That's traumatic.
All that to say, don't overthink. And this is
Mm.
me talking to myself too.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Don't
And
overthink
to me.
and
Yeah.
trust that you've studied this and that
Yeah.
you know it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you know, if you pass, great. And if you don't, okay, let's take a practice test and see
Yeah.
what I'm getting. You know, like you have to keep
Yeah.
going.
Yeah.
And I'm saying this to myself too because I feel like whenever I fail, quote, on something, I feel like I want to give up and like this isn't for
Mhm.
me. It's just not going to work out. But you can't.
Yeah.
You know, and I know you hear these stories about the people who passed all 6 on the first
Sure.
try, and that becomes your expectation, but that's just not, it's not reality.
No.
Everybody,
Not
you
for
know,
everyone.
it's not for everyone. Everybody's gonna have their own experience, and that's okay. Like I don't want anybody to feel like because it's taking them longer or because they've haven't passed as many that it makes them I don't want them to feel like that means that they shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I have plenty of friends, and we look at each other and like, all right, we got to do it. You know,
Yeah.
it just always just stay in it, and it'll happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think as you get older, you realize like failure is not the end all be all. Like everyone fails at some time in their life, and it's what you do after the failure that is like what defines you.
Yeah. For sure.
And I think people who do not fail or are so afraid of failure that they don't attempt again, like that's the antithesis of life. You know, like we're supposed to fail. We're supposed to try new things. We're supposed to continue on. And I don't know.
Yeah.
You don't want to get stuck being that person who never tried again because you failed one time.
Yeah. Exactly.
I have a coworker that he was telling me the other day. He's older, but he started his testing like very young, and then he had like a kid with his wife, and then he had a second kid, and then all these kids. So he had to pause because he's like, I can, you know, like I need to shift, like my priorities in life needs to shift for a while. So some years passed, his kids kind of grew older a little bit. They're like 6, 7, something. And now he told his wife, like, okay, it's my time.
Yeah.
We shifted priorities. They're very like a team, and I really like that. And he would tell her, and they work together, and she would take the kids at night or do whatever the night activities when he's like studying, and then they did this back and forth thing. And now he's licensed, and it was the most rewarding thing for him. You know,
that's amazing.
Yeah, and it's so rewarding, and he's older, and that was his path, and that was the shifting our priorities he needed to do for his life, and I think that's great.
Yeah, when you're young, I think it's easy to look at some people's life paths and think like, oh, like I'm not aligning, or the timing, and it's like the time is going to pass.
Yeah.
But that's an older perspective. Like now I'm in my 30s, and I mean, when I was young, I was always comparing because I thought, oh, this person is doing it already, and my path is not the same.
Yeah. Nobody's path is the same.
And my friends who I went to school with are now principals, and all, you know, they have completely different roles and worlds, but it doesn't make us any different. We're all just still peers, and we support one another in the endeavors that we do. And honestly, it's pretty amazing how different all of us are, you know?
That's the beauty of
but
it.
we still like, I mean, they're lifelong friends. When I see them, it's like we were just in studio 8 years ago. So, you know, but everyone has their own path, and I think you have to respect that.
Yeah, for sure.
So to shift a little bit, I know last time we were having a great conversation about kind of health and wellness in our industry.
Oh yeah.
And we do talk a lot about with the girls about just kind of finding that balance. And, you know, we're in school, we're in work, we're in, we're out, we're up, we're doing the podcast. But at the same time, you know, we get together and we're like, let's go play pickleball. Let's go walk. Let's go do something. Which we haven't done, but we're going to we're going to go back to it. But it's like also trying to like take care of yourself as a person, because you can be the great guy in the, I don't know what firm, but probably you're not happy, or you're not healthy, or you're not, you know, like how do we want to hear what you think about kind of just integrating wellness and health in the overall.
So I think like architecture as a whole has always been sort of an unhealthy environment. You know, it was like predominantly male, and they used to be in the studio all day long smoking, and but it's now, I think the computers have made it even worse because everyone's so sedentary all day long, and we have the stand desks, but realistically a lot of people are not standing all day.
That's true.
And so I think for me, my biggest thing is I've always been very active. I have to move around a lot. It's just who I am. And so when I come into a space that everyone's just sitting all day and they're not walking at all, at least like once a day, like I think that what's a good word?
Just get up and move.
Yeah.
Go outside.
No, I mean, I just think that's so unhealthy. I think it's not sustainable, and long term, like some architects live to 100 and then others live to like 55 because they have a mass heart attack or something. And it's like, I just think that while we are designing spaces that are to be, healthy and health and wellness and about, the human experience and how do you feel in this space, we can't then at the same time be sitting all day at a computer, not moving our bodies, drinking sodas at 10 a.m. and eating,
energy drinks too.
Oh my gosh, the energy drinks,
sleeping.
or going to get any food and eating at your desk. It's like, I think we have to approach this from a different perspective, and we have to actually embody the health and wellness and the human experience that we're designing for.
Yeah,
I never thought about it that way.
Well, yes, because I know there have been days where I would be at the office and not even get up to use the bathroom because and I don't know why, I just feel like, no, I can't get up, I can't eat, I can't go use the bathroom. It's ridiculous saying it out loud. But you guys know what I'm talking about.
Well, it's all-consuming work. Yeah. It's very all-consuming, and you don't want to lose the train of thought, or you don't want to lose the track that you're on. But sometimes the best inspiration comes from stepping outside of your environment and seeing the world. Or, actually, that's always where the best inspiration comes from. Touch some grass. We did that this morning. I went with my son, and we go and get grounded at the park with lots of grass, and we go run barefoot. Cute. And I mean, it's just to help you literally touch some grass and feel better and feel the human experience that is real, not in your 3D computer world.
Yeah.
And then you're like, your skin is gray because you're indoors and you're vitamin D deficient in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
So this is totally my philosophy.
No, I think it's so important, and yes, natural light, green, all these things are so important because regardless, we have to be in the office, right? So at least while we're in the office, let's make it a healthy environment.
I think that's a problem we're running into now too. Like the office spaces that were built in the mid 2010s, like no one is renting them out anymore. COVID happened. No one wanted to go back to them. And now they're having trouble filling these spaces because they are not conducive to what the current demographic, like how they want to operate, how they want to work.
Yeah. I also feel like what I love about studio and what I look for in offices is the collaboration. Like I don't ever want to feel like I'm working on a 5-person team and like I don't even see their faces all day.
Yeah.
Like on one of my previous teams at my old firm, we would, go up, meet, talk, face to face, like we're bringing ourselves away from our desks. We're talking to each other. We're not just communicating through Teams, message or Teams meetings. Like I always appreciate that sort of environment too, and it helps. If I haven't gotten off my desk, Valerie comes. Alex, come get off your desk. Let's go over there. Let's go think about it. That kind of thing. Like when you're surrounded by people, I think it really helps. Like I think.
That think the same way as you.
And I know work from home is like a huge thing now, just where we're going, and I think that has definitely its benefits for sure in terms of flexibility. But I also love working with people, and when you're learning, I feel that's so important because it's so much easier and better for me to learn next to somebody when we can draw it out, when we can point instead of on a computer on a
screenshots.
Screenshots.
We have a workplace policy here where I think it's either 1 or 2 days a week you can work from home, which is a nice balance because if you need to do an appointment or whatever, like you have that 1 or 2 days to take the opportunity, or just if you need to be at home for a delivery or whatever, that's really nice to have. But then majority of the week you're in person, you can collaborate, you should collaborate. And I mean, with our team, we always emphasize collaboration. We want to be collaborative because we're all reaching toward the end goal. We're all working toward the same end goal. And I think that's another big skill that you have to develop if you don't have that already. If you're afraid to talk to people, if you're afraid to speak for yourself, you might not do well in this industry because it's such a vital part to like how we work together.
Yeah, it's so nice to have the flexibility to work like the same thing they do at my firm. You have the Thursdays and Fridays remote that if you want to, and then the other days like you need to be in the office as like from 10 to 3 at least.
Yeah.
And they're heavy on collaboration and all that, and I really appreciate that. And I think it's great because as women in the field as well, you know, if we have kids or if we have other things we need to responsibilities we need to be doing. So yeah, I think it's great.
I know that what I remember is during studio, after we graduated, I found out that you were pregnant.
Yeah, I hid that for a few months from you guys.
We had no idea.
I'm so glad. I wanted you to have no idea. I think it was more, it was a personal thing. We waited a while to tell anyone, but also because it was my first time teaching, I was nervous about the perspective of the students, and I didn't want you guys to feel like this was going to affect, you know, your semester. I know it's very important. It was your final one. And so I was not far enough along that it would affect you anyway, but I just wanted to really keep that private for myself. And so I didn't tell anyone. So yeah, like having the flexibility or working a few days from home or having a few days off is always nice because I do have I had my son in 2024.
How was that transition?
So, you know, everyone talks about like being a very male dominated industry, but luckily I work for a firm where I was very supported both during my pregnancy and then after my birth. I think the year that I gave birth to my son at our firm, there had been, I don't remember if it was 8 or 9 women before me in that same year who had children.
That's insane.
And so, I mean, I was getting all of the tips during pregnancy. I was getting all of the after support during my family leave. And I just felt very supported in this space being a new mom and having such a major transition. And I don't know if I would have the same experience elsewhere, but I was very fortunate to be at Baker Barrios during that time.
I think a conversation I have with the girls all the time is, for me, the moment I have my family, that's gonna be it. Like I tell them, like I'm so like passionate about my profession and the things I do, but the moment I have a kid, I don't know what I'm gonna like. How am I gonna be able to transition into? Because I want to be there for him or her. You know, I just want to be on all these moments. And I feel like we are on a very demanding profession. And we just kind of want to hear how you kind of went through it. Yeah.
I think you can never know until it actually happens to you. Because you can think one thing and then motherhood is such a complete, utter change to who you are as a person and what you experience in the world, and it completely changes who you are in all of the best ways. But I feel like until it happens to you, you don't know. You may want to quit, or you may find like, okay, I cannot stay home all the time. I have to have something for myself. I think it's a personality thing. I have plenty of friends who, after having children, decided to just stay home, and that's a full-time job in itself. And to any of the caretakers out there, shout out to them because it is so difficult. But it's amazing at the same time, right? So like for me, I need the balance of having something of my own, even though I'm thinking of my son 24/7. And I think it's just a matter of who you are as a person and where you're at in your life when you decide to have children, or if you don't decide to have children.
Which is
I don't think that I loved having children, but I was also of the philosophy that if it happens, it happens. If not, my husband and I were just going to travel. We were both in agreement that this is, you know, not the end all be all for us, but once it did, it's now like this is our whole world, and now I'm gonna have like a whole basketball team of children. But everyone's different, and they all have different paths. And I think if you as a woman decide not to have children, then that's your path.
That's perfectly fine. Do you think like having a kid? I just wonder because I just feel like the past design studios I've done either a peace related project or a kids or something related to kids. I'm just super interested in just child development overall.
Me too.
And I've done a lot of research and I find it really interesting. Do you think like now that you have a kid and you kind of see him grow and you see how they learn and how they experience the world, has that kind of changed your view of how you kind of teach others, or how can you view the field, or like, I don't know if that has any.
Yeah, I mean, having a kid, like I said, changes everything. But I think one of the beautiful things is that, like I said, I always have loved to teach everyone, and so childhood development was very important to me when he was born. And I mean, I use TikTok as a resource almost daily to understand what his milestones were and where he should be, and what sort of activities were approved by, whether it be like a pediatric or some sort of pediatric board to assist you with helping them toward those milestones. So it was really fun to see his development that way. And that was all I did for like the time that I had off from work, was work on his development. And, I think that also translated to like designing the space that he lived in, like his room. And I was super passionate about making his nursery very colorful and understanding how colors affect, human psychology. And I think when he was born, the trend at the time was to have these very like neutral baby nurseries, like everything was beige. And I have a million nieces and nephews, and I'm like, I know that this is not childhood development. Obviously you cannot have so much stimulation. Craziness. Like it will overstimulate them, but there's like a very nice balance. And I decided to work with like primary colors and like my understanding of the color theory, where I also learned at Architects Design Group in Winter Park, Florida. But I think, like I said, having a kid is it completely changes you. But there was so much of me that I was able to help guide him in those early days, and I'm just excited for what the future holds.
I never thought of it like that, but now that you obviously had a kid, now you see what the kid needs, and then you design this space for it.
Constantly designing. Cool, and there's so many cool gadgets now that it's like you're looking at the design of the stroller versus the design of the seat, and some of them are very aesthetic, and of course as a designer you want those items, but then others just function so much better. And so there's like a blend. And my husband and I even sometimes sit down and think, okay, well, we need to design this one thing that is not on the market because it would help our family, so you're always thinking of design.
So interesting.
To go back and shift a little bit into kind of the Orlando community and you being part as well as City Lab, through like your career, have you been involved in any kind of community organization or anything that you felt
that helps you like in your career?
I mean, I was very ambitious when I was in school, and so we I believe Lucas, I was taking one of his digital classes, and he required us to attend an AIA event for like extra credit. And at the time I'm like, oh, let's just go, And so that was sort of my introduction to AIA. And I attended that event. And from there I started helping or meeting my peers who were also sort of involved in AIA. And I started as the associate, and then I met Malcolm Jones, who runs Black Architects in the Making. And so he was moving to the area at the time, and I became the co-chair with him. So it was like the first cohort of Black Architects in the Making, where we taught young children about architecture. And that was amazing. I mean, I was meeting people who were doing truly like grassroots things here in the community, and that's the way that I like to operate. I don't necessarily love all of the structure, but I like to kind of just jump in and be a big picture idea person and help with like boots on the ground, and then kind of like see my way out of it as it flourishes, And so, I think you must be a part of your community. I live in one of the most like prominent communities in Orlando right now, the Mills district. And so it's like, it's got a complete revitalization just through architecture and influence alone. A lot of the spaces there are being built up, but it's completely walkable. I can walk to 2 different grocery stores from my home. That's nice. And so I'm super about being involved in your own community. I think there's so many negative influences out there in the world, and it's easy to be consumed by that and feel like a sense of dread. But if you are doing your part in your own community, I think it helps to sort of recalibrate your thinking and create a more of a positive frame of mind, because your sphere of influence. You know that you are positively influencing who you can. You can't help what's happening elsewhere in the world, aside from worrying. So that's how I try to like live my life. That's more my philosophy.
That's a good approach, because I feel like giving back is essential, mostly because not in a way of like, yes, I've been through the process and I just want to give back, but you also learn so much.
Oh yeah,
from everyone, because there's so many different ideas,
and giving back gives to you as well.
Yeah.
Like you giving of your time or giving of your resources is so fulfilling in a way that many other things are not. And so I'm big on giving back because it just makes you feel good. It makes everyone feel better, and I don't know, spread positivity.
Yeah. I think it's really interesting. One of the things you were saying right now, I have a clear shot view of Lake Yola. But I was just thinking about, I talked to Alex the other day and we were talking about how much potential like downtown Orlando have, and like all these areas here in Orlando have. And we talk about all this potential and all these things that it could be, but it like you're saying, like, but what can I do in the matter? Like what can I do right now? And the other day I went into like this coffee shop and there's this advertising saying they have created like this app. I don't know if you know about it. There's an app here in downtown Orlando that you can scan and you can report if any part of the city feels like dirty, and
really?
they kind of come and
I love that. So I would do that this morning.
Yes. So you kind of report it like, oh, this could be better, and then it kind of goes into the city of Orlando.
Nice.
Yeah,
that is nice.
So I think like just little things.
Hopefully they execute.
Yeah, hopefully
it's a great start.
I think it's a great start, and then how can we be part of it? It's something like that, okay, we can report at least the corner that looks kind of, if like how
the broken window
of this, like.
So I was taught by a lot of the professors who did sort of like a lot of guerrilla architecture where they did not have permission to do these things, like trespassing in places, doing installations in spots just to influence or evoke emotion, right? And I was taught by a lot of professors with this philosophy, and I think that it was sort of ingrained in me, and I felt like I aligned with that. And so I have a lot of, like I said, I've built these relationships with people who think similarly. And I think sometimes it's not about asking for permission, it's about asking for forgiveness. And if you have an idea, you need to find the right people who support that and then just put that out in the world. I've had friends where we've thought of that empty spot on Orange for years before it became an installation, and we thought, okay, we're going to go and do a guerrilla installation. We never actually did, but these are things that you don't really need permission to do, and they might get people talking. It might create a buzz in the city, good or bad, that will get people having the right conversations and moving the needle forward. But yeah, I don't know. I think you have to not be afraid to take risks, and you have to just try things, and sometimes it will stick and sometimes it won't, but at least you are trying.
Yeah. And another thing I thought you said was super important is like just going out to these events. It doesn't mean that you're going to be part of organization A, B, and C. But just because it's not for everybody, right? Like we all cannot be part of all the organizations, but at least just going out there and just meet people. And probably you don't know who you're going to meet. And I feel like that's so valuable just in that community of Orlando and the overall community and the architecture as well. Like we're a small community.
Yes.
So everyone knows everyone.
Everyone does know everyone. You have to be very careful about that. Be careful, how you represent yourself. But I do think you should go out and meet people, and you never know where the connection is going to lead. It might come back 5-10 years later, but at least you know each other. And if there's some way you can keep a positive relationship, I think that's always good. I'm also a chatty Cathy, and like I just like to go and chat with people. So it works for someone like me. Other people, maybe not.
Maybe not.
But I don't know. But I do like understand burnout. I've had burnout by trying to be in all of the organizations. And you have to find what works for you and what doesn't. Right now, I'm not able to volunteer as much as I'd like because I have a son, because I'm working full time, and also that's just not my passion at the moment. I still want to give back. I don't have the capacity. That's
like
not
you had before.
Exactly. I don't. It's not my priority. I don't have the time, but that doesn't mean I won't ever do it again. I just have to find the right thing that is like my calling at the time and jump back into it.
I agree. And you did mention to us as well the other day that you worked at the ARB board.
Oh yeah, I'm currently on the ARB board. I just became the co-chair. I was just appointed the co-chair
Can you
a
explain
month or so ago.
a little bit what that is?
Yeah, so the Appearance Review Board is a board with the City of Orlando, and we overview any of the projects that are in the Orlando CRA district. And so any of the projects that are done in that area have to come through our board for us to assess based on visual aesthetics alone.
Okay.
So it ensures that it aligns with the city's codes and that it is something that the city can proudly put out. And so we act as sort of a sounding board, but it's a board of professionals. And you would come in, submit your project to us, and we would do a review of the project.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting.
There's actually an opening right now. And so if you are an architectural professional, reach out to me. My email is bjohnson@bakerbarrios.com. And we are looking for people. And so I have put the word out there. And it's a great opportunity to not only see what's coming about in our local community, but also just to be with like-minded people, and you'll learn a lot through the process as well. So
I didn't know that existed. I don't know why I just didn't put that in my head.
So yeah, most municipalities have like a historic board or an appearance review board, or another entity that reviews design guidelines within their districts, and it just helps to ensure that everything looks to a certain standard.
Yeah. Do you feel you've learned something from being in the board, either like?
Oh yeah, I've learned plenty. I mean, and I see a lot of my friends who come to the board, which is funny. People I've worked with years ago come, and it's nice to always regroup and reconnect. And I've learned that through that I can also mentor. I've had opportunities to mentor. Recently, a young girl came. She was doing a project for her dad, but she was still in school. So she's not licensed, but she was helping him to design, and we had our feedback with her. And I pulled her aside and I said, if you need any assistance, I can help sort of teach you where to look for the guidelines, where the zoning information, code information. So that was another opportunity for me to mentor just sort of naturally.
Yeah, that's great.
And so, yeah, I learn a lot every time I'm on the board.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great experience.
It is.
Yeah, and it's open to all.
So do you need to be a certain level?
No.
Professional?
Oh, really?
To be in
No,
it?
you don't. You just have to be in the industry, and there will be sort of a vetting process, but usually you would need like a professional referral, and to meet with the people on the board. And no, there's no minimum requirement. You just have to be an architectural or in the industry.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
For our listeners, whoever wants.
Yeah. So we know as well that you started, and we bring this up because I think it's super, super important, but social media, right? Social media can be like either a great thing or it can be a bad thing.
Yeah.
Like I think you really need to use it in the positive way. But you did start your TikTok, correct? And I was looking at it the other day and I was like, this is so cool. Like the things you talk about, and I just feel it's so creative, and you're kind of like yourself out there, and I just found it super interesting.
Yeah, so I decided to do a TikTok journey. I have a friend who that's what she does for work. She helps TikTokers with their marketing, and she really influenced me because she was like, you just have to do it. I'd wanted to do it for so long, and I love TikTok like as a tool. Seriously, I use it for all of my son's development, and I usually am just a consumer. But I'm like, this is such a fun way to connect with people. And I was learning things from people in like China and like all over that. Like otherwise I would not know about their culture or like the things that they know. And so I loved it as a tool. And I thought, well, I like to talk and I don't mind being on camera, but I sort of saw it as more of a challenge for myself to actually do it. And I mean, I said I wanted to do it so many times, right? And I finally just did it. But once I started, I recognized it is such a great tool, not only for consuming information, but like the confidence that you build by doing it and just putting your stuff out there and learning how to speak eloquently about a certain subject. I'm not saying I'm eloquent, but this is a process, right? It's iterative. So like you're constantly learning new techniques and new ways to be better. And it does help build this like level of confidence that I think maybe I didn't have before. I think I was always a little confident, but after doing TikTok, I'm like, oh, I don't care what I look like. And I don't care. Like, I'm just going to put it out there because I think I have something that could help someone. And that's really the goal, is to share and build community. And so, yeah, I love it as a tool. And I think it could be really useful in helping you to even learn how to present you know, something so small, but we do it all the time with our work.
Exactly.
And so, yeah, I think you should TikTok. I'm anti LinkedIn. I am anti Instagram.
Really? You're on Instagram?
I hate it. It is so archaic. I'm anti Facebook. Like, you have to understand, Facebook for me was brand new when I was in high school. And at the time, you had to have a college email in order to even get on Facebook.
Oh, really?
Yes, it was for university students only.
I had no idea.
Because Zuckerberg created it at the university. And then it was only for that university. And then it sort of kind of became a university thing only.
Oh.
And so when we were in high school, we would fake a university email to get onto Facebook. And so it was like very kind of right. It was like groundbreaking.
You're looking into
and you had to have this university email. None of us did. We were like 16, 17, 18, but it was so fun once we got on there. And so is that sort of like translated to Instagram, where you could curate your own page and, you know, share with your friends. And as they sort of grew into more like, now your grandma's on there and like your aunt who you don't really want to see your everyday life, you know what I mean? Like I went from being a kid who was doing this like kind of really groundbreaking thing to now your grandma can see all of your posts. Like, it's just not the same environment. And now it's like, all of your employers will see it. No one is looking at our Facebooks when we were 16. I hope they don't. But, you know, that was the thinking back then. And it's like these things just didn't evolve to the same level. And TikTok started as like an app for 12-year-olds. But now, I mean, that's also having its own evolution too, right? Like they've just been bought by Ellison, and it's weird. It feels very weird now. There's like so many more ads. There didn't used to be the same like level of ads. And so like I think there will be some other new social media thing or other way that we connect, and we'll have to hop on to that. But yeah, I think LinkedIn, nobody says, I am so happy and to congratulate you on this position. No one speaks like that. I'm so happy to announce that I am now working here instead of. I don't like it. I don't think it's genuine, but I understand how it can be useful as a tool. I think we need to continue moving with the tools and the time. Yeah. So let's, you know, those are behind for me.
Yeah,
that's so funny.
I think it's like the way you use it for, like,
it's true.
Like for us, like the podcast, for example, it was like the same thing. It grew out of an idea, and we kind of use like all this social media kind of to like target the community, but it is like a community platform to be shared and to be talked about and to be like. So it has been great to like kind of grab the social media in the good way, you know, and try to share this for the community.
Like a tool.
It is a tool. It's how you use the tool. If you use the tool only to consume and compare, and then it's not a good tool for you. If you use the tool to, you know, create a voice and give people a voice, or to influence positively, I think then, you know, you're using it the right way.
Reach out to communities that you wouldn't even reach
or
out.
people you wouldn't reach out to and learn their new perspectives. Like, don't be afraid of me. I will say hi to you. My face might look scary, but I promise, like, I'm just going to chat.
Yeah.
It's been amazing, this conversation. We do want to ask you, for our listeners, right, and for our community and our people, what would you think it's an advice you would give to either students, or like just an advice, your top advice about life, about architecture? It can be about anything, just, you know.
I think my top advice in life would be just to do whatever it is that you have in question. You have to understand how many people pursue something that they're not yet qualified for, and often get that opportunity. But sometimes you only get, always, you only get the opportunity if you ask. If you don't ask, if you don't put yourself out there, you will never get that opportunity. And you will always be wondering what if, and you will always be thinking, I should have, or maybe I will. Just do it. I have gotten so many scholarships in my time that I just reached out to, or I applied to, not thinking I was qualified, and I would get the scholarship. I've gotten positions with people because I've asked, or I've asked a friend to help me get a position, and it was just a matter of sometimes doing it afraid. I would be very afraid, and I would make a friend hit send, you know, like, just do the thing that you most fear, and you might find that it ends up being, where you need to be.
Yeah.
Life usually works out in your favor if you're bold enough to like pursue the thing that you want. Yeah,
that's good advice,
great,
because sometimes we're so afraid
yeah
to just click send.
Or I'm afraid all the time, but like I do surround myself with the people who will say, just let's do it. Yeah, let's do it.
That's a great advice. So we also have a question from the previous guest for you. If you could change something about the way architecture is practiced, what would it be?
Oof. I would,
You can take your time.
You can think about it.
If I could change something about the way architecture is practiced, what could it be? I think architecture has to stop operating as a corporate function and get back to the idea of art. I think we have lost art in so many capacities, especially with tools like AI and the tech industry, where everything has been so tech focused, which I think is valuable. But I do, in my heart, believe there will be a renaissance of sort where we get back to the artistry, because if you go too far advanced in technology, you lose the human aspect. And I do think there will have to be a balance. Life is about balance. And I hope we can get back to that, that notion that people value art again, and we want the artistry, and people will pay money for having like something that is of quality, something that is artistic, something that is
not cost efficient,
unique and curated, versus the bottom line. I mean, everything in this world is about money, but I do hope that architecture could back to just being valued and being more creative, or in sort of leading that creative revolution.
Yeah, that's a great answer.
That's what I hope.
Yeah, I hope so too.
Yeah,
I think it's such a it's a design focused field. At the end, yes, obviously there's a technical side, and you can use those like technological advancements as a way, as a tool, but it's how you use the tool.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here with us today.
You're welcome so much.
This was great. You're welcome. This was great.